Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, you guys, welcome to episode 2 of the No Parking Podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check out episode 1 where I interviewed David Michael Jones, and he really hit the nail on a lot of the key points of learning oneself and why it's so important to choose you and bet on yourself. If you haven't already, go check out episode 1. But let's get to episode 2. So I thought that for this time around, it would be good if I made this a solo round and kind of introduced the whole Dreams and Drive community and also the No Parking Podcast and walked you guys through my ideas for the community and why I really want to create a space for creatives and lifestyle entrepreneurs to take their dreams out of park and put them in drive. So if you know me, you know that I have always loved talking to people about what it is that they do and why is it that they have these perspectives that they have. I think that by talking to people, you really can understand what drives them, and at the same time, you can learn so much from their experiences. But first, let's start this whole podcast with a little story. And so the title of this story is called You've Got to Start Even If You Don't Know How. So this kind of connects to the whole dreams and drive concept, so take a little listen. Since I was in high school, I've had a Toyota Corolla. It was a 1999 Toyota Corolla, and I had been driving it. I drove that car out. And finally, last year, I said to myself, I need a new car. It had about like 230-something thousand miles on it. It was falling apart. It didn't look good. It didn't match my image, and I said, I want a new car. That was a year ago, mind you. For a whole year after originally announcing that I wanted a new car, I would just look at cars online, but I never actually took that step and got a car. My coworkers would ask me every week, Rain, did you get your new car yet? And I would say, yeah, I'm about to get it this weekend, but I never did. And then one day, my dad sat me down. He was like, Raina, you're about to be 25. You've got to make decisions. He's Jamaican. He said, you have to make decisions even if you don't know how, it'll turn out. You can't be so afraid of, being wrong. He's like, you know what? Even if you buy a car and it ends up being the wrong thing, the decision, you made that decision, you're able to pivot from there. And I think that really hit home with me because I think it's a common theme that I have in my life. And I don't know about a lot of you guys, but it's like you have these desires, right? You have these goals, all these things that you want for yourself, but you allow yourself to actually sit on them. You allow them to fester. You allow them to get to the point where they're about to burst, but you never actually tend to them, you never actually put them into motion. And that's how I felt about getting a new car. I was so scared of possibly getting the wrong car. I was so scared of not getting the right deal. I had never bought a car before. I was just petrified. But I told myself, I gave myself a date. I said, you know what, within a week, I had already done research. Always do your research. I had already done research, so I knew the car I wanted. I wanted another Toyota Corolla. I just was so scared of actually going to the dealership and buying it. So one Saturday, my dad was like, you know what, Raina, let's go today. I said, all right. So we went to the dealership, and about 4 hours later, I drove home with my own, Toyota Corolla. I was no longer driving my 1999 one. I had a brand new car, and I felt so proud of myself because I actually put that dream into drive, literally. I had this dream of having this car, and I did the research. I made a decision. I put a date on it, and I got it done. And that feeling was so gratifying. And I'll never forget my dad saying, you just have to make a decision even if you don't know how it's going to end up. And that decision for me was I decided and I committed to putting that thought or that desire of mine into action. And thinking about it now, there's probably so many things that I did wrong. So many things I probably did wrong. Although my dad was there, maybe I could have gotten a better deal. Maybe I could have negotiated more. Maybe I didn't need all those bells and whistles on the warranty. But I now can say I bought a car, and I now can say I can tell you what not to do if you're me. And there's so much power in making mistakes. That's why I think that a lot of us listening to this today need to remember that you can't be afraid to start because you're afraid of failing. It's just not, you're gonna fail. And if you embrace failure as a way to come back and be even better, then you won't be afraid of failing. You won't be afraid of it because you know you'll be able to bounce back. So let's fast forward to this podcast. So I had the idea for the podcast. Long story short, I got the name No Parking from my cousin who saw one of my pictures and suggested that I use that. No parking, and then I was playing around after getting a mic. I played around on GarageBand with some intros, and I think out of nowhere I was like, "Oh, welcome to No Parking Podcast, where I help you put your dreams in drive." And just like that, I had an aha moment. I said, "Yes, dreams in drive. That's gonna be my hashtag," and that eventually evolved into me wanting to create the community, which is called Dreams and Drive. Because I have this long-term vision of maybe Dreams and Drive being something more than just this podcast. I wanted to really turn into a movement for people who are tired of being stuck in their everyday positions, creatives especially, who really, really want to put those dreams that they have in drive and start building brands that can then give them the life that they want, whether it be help them, have side profits, if it's help them live a freer life, meaning they don't have to work for anyone else, they can turn to full-time entrepreneurs. Whatever their dream is, I want this community to be a go-to resource for those type of people. But I'm starting small with this podcast, so thank you for being one of the first listeners, or even thank you for listening to this. And I knew that podcasting was something I could do. As I told you guys, I'm not new to interviewing people. I'm not new to speaking in front of people. And I knew that I could do it too because I saw people who were like me in some ways and they did it. So Myleik Teele, who's the founder of Curlbox, a subscription beauty company for brown women of color, I loved her podcast, and she just spoke the truth on them, and she had such a following because she was just so genuine with her message. And I saw her podcast and I was like, you know what, I could do that too. And then there's another podcaster who I really love called Lewis Howes, and he has the podcast The School of Greatness, and I love his podcast because they were just so inspiring, so motivating. He talked to people from all different industries, all different backgrounds, and he was able to gain so much insight and knowledge from them that I said to myself, you know what, I could do that too. I could do that too. And I used it not as a framework for jealousy or for hindering my own desire to move forward, but I used what I saw other people accomplishing as a way for me to kind of springboard my own self into action. And I think that's something that we sometimes don't do enough of. We don't admire people enough, and we don't see how studying how other people become successful can be motivation to our dreams and can really help us push ourselves into that drive mode. Um, and at the same time, we don't want to get stuck in the idea of being content with just dreaming about something. And that's something that I also had to come to realization that I was guilty of. So I used to work in New York City, and in 2014, September 2014, I switched jobs and I worked in Edison, New Jersey, so I was no longer taking the train. So after work every day, to kind of spare myself from the boredom of riding and driving myself to work, I would call my best friend after work religiously every day. And we will always have these really long, deep conversations about what we wanted to do with our lives and what we thought was going to happen and all this stuff. And we really for a year we spent talking, and we never did any of the things that we said we wanted to do. And I mean, I'll be honest, I was still writing, I had my job, I was still making network connections, but I had this deep desire to build a community of my own. But I was just so fearful, and I guess we can transition to the next area. I was so fearful of what could possibly go wrong, how I would fail, and at the same time, I was fearful of what could go right. What if this became a success? What if I didn't know how to handle it? What if, there were so many what ifs. I got so stuck in trying to make sure I didn't make a decision to start until I knew it was the right time instead of just starting. And that's something that, if you guys are listening to this, I want you to think about this in your own life. What are the things that you're scared of doing because you don't know if you're going to make the right decision? You can pause the podcast, go get a little notebook or something, and write down that one thing that you're scared of doing because you just don't know how it's going to turn out. And you're scared of the future. And as you guys are writing that, I can tell you something. When I started this podcast, I didn't know how to podcast. All I knew was the little tutorials that I read online, right? I never started a podcast. I may have started a blog before, but podcasting has its own areas that you have to really be in tune with. I never done any of that. And I wasn't sure to make sure I didn't let that stop me from starting, because I could have said to myself, you know what, I'm not a podcaster, I don't know how to do it, so I'm just going to stick to blogging forever. But no, I didn't know how to do it, and I committed, and I'm going to say this here in this podcast, I'm committed to growing. So as we get more episodes under our belt, I want you guys to really think and to be reflective on how much I'm growing, because I know I want to reflect on that too, because when I started, episode 1 was just a test episode. Episode 1 was something that I worked with David, who I interviewed, and also as the podcast editor. I said, hey, let's just do this test episode and see how this thing works. I did that, and now look, it turned into a real episode. So as you know, as I said, I'm growing with you, and I'm just so happy that you guys are listening in. And I want you to know that as I'm growing with you, I also want you to grow. This podcast won't make sense if you aren't taking in the lessons and if you aren't committing to those lessons. So here, let me run through this whole idea of dreams and drive, and we can kind of talk through how I'm putting my own dreams and drive. So once I had the idea for dreams and drive, and I kind of got the mic and figured out how we were going to edit and all that other stuff, I gave myself a date. So you have your goal that you wrote down. I gave myself a date. I said by January 1st, I am going to release something. And I put it out there to the world. If you follow me on social media, if you follow me on Facebook or anything, you would have saw that I said January 1st, No Parking is launching. And when I first put that out, I didn't even have a website. I didn't even know how that was going to happen. But I said, all right, I give myself like a month and a half. I'm going to make something happen by January 1st. And you know what? On January 1st, I was scared as hell, but I did. I launched that first test episode. And I'm so happy that I didn't wait until it was perfect, because I don't think you have to, it doesn't have to be perfect to start. Know that you're striving towards perfection, which you may never reach, but you don't have to be perfect to start. So I gave myself a date. I started out with figuring out what my goal was. And then what I did next was I had to really think about, all right, so what is it that we're trying to do? What is it that you really, really want to accomplish? Who are you talking to? And that's how I specified that I wanted to talk to creatives and lifestyle entrepreneurs, people who I can relate to, that I know their pain points, I know their struggles, and I really, really have a personal investment in seeing people who I talk to prevail and shine. That's what I wanted to do, right? So I set a goal, I set a date, and I set a target audience. I wanted to create a community, a platform, a resource, a source of inspiration, for this specific segment. And then I got to work. I mean, I wasn't working like really hard. I knew that I just wanted to release something. I didn't even have like actually, let me go back. I wanted to release something, and I also define what that something is. I wanted to have one podcast episode in the bag by January 1st. So I set out in doing that. I just got so intent on figuring out how to get it done, and I shared my progress with people. I know some people say you shouldn't tell people what you're up to, but I found for me that getting that social recognition, or at the same time, I knew that by putting it out there, I was starting to create a buzz, and I was starting to get people excited about it too. So as you know, January 1st came and went. January 1st, 2016, episode 1 went live, and I'm just so happy to see the responses to it. And I think one of the things that we don't realize is that there's so many people out there who want to root for you. There's so many people out there who want to see you succeed. So don't don't spoil yourself of that opportunity to be loved and to be appreciated and to help others. You never really know how what you're doing is helping another person, right? You never really know who's your silent cheerleader. You never know who's your silent supporter. You never know who is silently looking to you for hope. So you can't let this fear of not putting your dreams in drive hinder you from being and recognizing your greatness. On this podcast is really just about introducing who I am to you and what my goal for this whole Dreams and Drive community is. And if you're interested in joining the community, just go to dreamsanddrive.com and you can sign up there. And once you sign up, you'll have access to the Facebook group. And I'll be honest to you guys, like I'm trying to be 100% clear and you know visible to you all. It's I don't know what this will morph into in the next 6 months, a year, but I do have a very specific goal for these first 3 months. Is I want to grow my podcast user subscribers, and I also want to grow the community of people who are interested in learning how they can build their brands and how they can really start taking their dreams out of park and put that into drive. So I have two basic metrics: my podcast and also my newsletter, which is also my group, and I have a Facebook group. I want to see how focused can I get, or how much results can I get if I stay focused on this idea. And I think that's another thing that we sometimes forget when we're starting to put our dreams into drive, is you have to get really focused. You have to know your why. As David said in episode 1, you have to know what motivates you. You have to be willing to invest in yourself when nobody else is going to invest in you. You have to be willing to believe in yourself when nobody else believes in you, because that ability to persevere will be what carries you through. It will be what takes you up, a hill when you don't have all-wheel drive. It's what is going to, help you drive around curbs without skidding. There's so many things that you have to really be prepared for in these next few months as you put your dreams to drive. But the number one thing is remaining focused and always remembering why. If that's anything I say to you guys, it's that. And for these next episodes, I probably won't do as many solo rounds. It'll kind of be what you guys want. I definitely want to interview people, and when you signed up in the beginning, I asked people the question: their name, their email, what are they struggling with, and what do they want to thrive in. And a lot of people had some very interesting reactions, or not even reactions. They had some interesting topics that they said they were struggling with, and I'm gonna read them out to you because I want you to know what other people in this community are hoping to get out of it. And I think that will help you get excited about what the type of content that we want to share with you. So I just pulled up this. So people said they want to, they're currently struggling with how to properly market themselves, how to stay focused, how to not limit their own scope and possibilities, business, how to be a better salesperson, how to know what else is out there for them in a job when they feel stuck, how to be more confident, how to grow their blog traffic and, get more followers and do more guest posts, how to believe in their inner greatness, how to eliminate fear, how to be a better person at networking. They're struggling with how to hold themselves accountable. They want to learn how to network better or get back to their old networking days, how to make money doing what they love while they're still young. How to stay the course when they get deterred. How to win. That's actually very broad, but I like that. How to be less scared of what others are saying about them. Sales, another person said sales and reaching their potential through that. and how to just build that clientele, how to get that steady flow, and at the same time still be able to do what they love and not feel like they have to compromise, how to increase exposure in their business, how to navigate career changes and start shifting into a space that they really love, which is not what they're doing now. So I think these are just a lot of the topics that people said, and these are all the topics that I want to talk about in this podcast. That's why I'm so excited, because I want to get interesting guests on here talking about how they did it, because that's the best way to learn sometimes, learning from how others did it, learning from their experiences, and then going out and doing it using their experiences as background research and knowledge, and then failing some more by yourself, but just getting better. I'm just so excited for this No Parking podcast. I don't want this one to turn into a rant because it is a solo round, but just know, and I really believe it, like if you really believe in yourself, I know I'm saying this coming from living a very privileged life. I'm able to say this, but I really do believe that having confidence in yourself will really be that gas to your dreams, right? Having confidence in yourself and not being afraid to say you don't know and not being afraid to find answers will be what sets you apart from that other person who's in park, right? Because you can have two cars next to each other in a parking lot, the same car, same gas and everything, but one is more powerful than the other. One is moving. One is going to move because one has that will to move, you know? Some people just get content sitting all day. They get content dreaming, and I don't want this community to be for people who are content, who are okay with just sitting around and being an idea person. And I'll admit, like, I'm the queen of ideas. Like, I love sitting around and thinking about ideas, but I also know that if I want to see this change in my life that I desire for myself, I'm going to have to step back from dreaming and start doing, start driving, never parking, never being content. I mean, there will come a point where you will be content and you'll say, all right, I'm not going to do this anymore. But you have to be focused in the beginning and you have to just always be hustling smartly, of course. I don't believe in overworking and I don't believe in skipping sleep, which is something that will probably come up in another episode. I just think that you really, really have to work smartly and work hardly, if that makes sense. That's probably not the right word, but you have to be dedicated and committed to putting your dreams in drive. So, as I mentioned before, you can sign up for the community at dreamsanddrive.com. Um, Follow us on Instagram at you can follow us on Instagram at Dreams and Drive, or even Twitter, Dreams and Drive, hashtag Dreams and Drive. Tell us what your dream is and tell us what your specific one goal is that you have and your date for that goal. I think when you start putting it out there, you hold yourself accountable. So whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram, you tag us, we'll repost you. Just put it out there. Even if you don't accomplish it, I'm telling you, putting it out there and making that goal and setting a deadline for it and being very, very specific is going to set you apart from all those other cars in the parking lot that want to go somewhere but really don't want to go somewhere, if you get what I'm saying. So thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of the No Parking Podcast. And I hope that this really was a great way for you to know me. I know I didn't go into depth too much, but I do invite you to go to my website, RainaCampbell.com. Learn some more about me there. I can say I'm 24. I graduated from Princeton 2013. I have a degree in sociology. I grew up in Orange, New Jersey. That's a little thing about me. It's kind of weird that I'm saying this all at the end. Um, I'm just so excited for this, and I thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe. Please share this with a friend. Please comment. Please reflect on the things that I talked about. I just really, really, and I'm getting a little teary-eyed here thinking about it. Never ignore that burning desire of your heart. It's always been my desire to share stories of encouragement, inspiration with others. And I'm slowly finding what my platform will be. I'm so slowly finding out how I can do that. And I'm so excited for my own growth. I think I've grown so much over these years. I'm so excited to see what the possibilities are for this community and how you guys can change it and how I can help people find answers to questions that they sincerely are seeking answers to. Um, yeah, dreams and drive. Know that you don't have to settle. You don't have to park your dreams. You can always drive towards them, and along the way, you might create new dreams. I'm not trying to sound corny here, but dreams and drive is something that I have confidence that whatever this morphs into, because I think we always are morphing into something, this is going to change somebody's life. And even if it just inspires one person to create one goal that they accomplish by whatever that date is that they set, I'll be happy. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure, as I said, to subscribe. Catch us out on social or at Dreams and Drive. Talk to you soon.